follow these scriptures. Now the reaper's all on my back. Now it's suspect with these preachers. Wonder why they teach what they teaching. You claim that you have truth, but ain't practicing what you preaching. Come around calling me bro. When I needed you, you went ghost. Don't try to get too close, or you just might get exposed. That world mission society had me locked down in my soul. And I'm not playing.
Hey everyone, my name is Edgar. I'd like to welcome all of you back to another episode of Defusing the WMSCOG. And today, I just want to say I'm so happy, very excited, because I'm interviewing one of the most genuine persons that I've met since leaving the WMSCOG and just being in around the whole ex-WMSCOG community. I just wanted to say that, like, this person that I'm going to interview today is so genuine. Not saying that no one else isn't. There's so many loving people, but Daisy she's just someone who wears her heart on her sleeve and is just such a genuine person. So I'm really excited to bring her on the show today. And I'm also very excited because I don't know everything about Daisy's story. So this is going to be something new for me and something that I'm looking forward to hearing. So without further ado, Daisy, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Daisy, and I was in a World Mission Society, Church of God in Reseda, LA, since 2010 to 2024.
Wow,
So
2010,
14 years.
14
Yes,
years.
so mainly in Reseda, but I was in Simi Valley, and I did go here and there, a few Zions here and there.
Okay, all right. So many things I want to talk about because you had experiences, prior to 2012, so that's always a good topic of conversation. But also, if I remember correctly, you witnessed some of the first protests in LA, right? Outside of the WMSCOG.
Yes, yes, I did. Yeah, that was fun. So, yeah, I mean, I remember just going there. I was recent. I wasn't, I was a member here and there. I wasn't going as much.
Yeah.
So sometimes I did for a while, and then I kind of stopped for a few, for a few Sabbaths, and then
But
go back.
But
Oh, I'm sorry.
that wasn't when you first joined, though, right? The
No, during the
protests.
no, I had enrolled in 2010. So that's when I was kind of still iffy. So I was like still new. I consider myself new 2 years. I know people have been there just a few years, but
Right.
I consider like new because then I started getting more involved
More
as the year
faith.
progressed. Yes,
So
yes, yes.
so you joined in 2010, but the protest was
2000, yeah,
2012 and afterwards, right?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so let's start from the beginning then. Before that, how did you even get involved with the World Mission Society? How did you get recruited?
So it was through my work.
Okay.
So it was a friend that I had just started. So I had just gotten married and I moved to LA, started a new job. And my, I guess the person who was teaching me, she was actually a person there. So it was, but it was, she didn't preach to me. She was actually talking to somebody else during lunch hour. And I'm studying with her. And I was just being there, listening, eavesdropping to the conversation. She saw that I was really trying to listen to see what they're talking about. And then she just asked me, "Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And she's like, "Do you want to come today?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I was, I had nothing to do, so I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go." So the same day that she asked, I went and um just keep on studying every day. Just went every day for like a study. So it was like during the feast. So it was like a study or so, and then I just left. And then the people were really nice to me. My car at the time broke down in church. So I had brothers helping me out, and they actually make it work. And so I left, and which is really nice. Now I think about it, because it was actually during the feast, so they had their suits on. But I was so nervous at the time that I just wanted my car to work and get out of there.
Yeah.
So it was really nice. It was really nice and helpful. And so I just go there for a few days, and like after like a few weeks, they asked me if I wanted to get baptized, and I was like, yeah, sure. I
Okay.
was very easygoing. I'm like, sure, why
Yeah.
not?
And I will say that about you, Daisy. Like, you're very easygoing, right? So like I could just imagine, like, when you went in there on like they were probably like, man, we need to get her baptized immediately. We have to get her in here because your personality is contagious, to be honest, you know. So I want to say, like, you know, I'm trying to imagine in what was going on during that time. And, you know, 2010, that was, if I remember correctly, that's the 10 talent movement era. So everyone's trying to bear like really good fruit, you know, because they were handing awards during, you know, during that time frame. And, you know, you were considered like 144,000 if you were to bear those kind of talents, you know. So, but it's pretty crazy to hear you say that you were the one that kind of like jumped into the conversation with your friend to you know hear what they were talking about. Let me, which leads me to this question: like, were you seeking for like God at that time? Were you just curious, or like what was
A
going
little bit
on?
of everything because I mean I always wanted to, be more religious. I did before try to go to Catholic, and I wanted to get my husband also baptized, but he never did got baptized on, the Catholic Church. And so there happened. Then so I was like, I just want to find something, and I just thought like, oh, maybe it's time to really go for it. So I just
Yeah.
did. And, it was
Okay.
really nice. Everybody was really kind. But the person who I went with, like my coworker, she was pregnant. So she was a mommy and I wasn't a mommy. So I started studying with a sister
Mm,
that, a youth sister. So I was
right.
considered youth just because I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So even though I was more in the older side.
Okay, so far very good experiences in the church, and this is I
Yes.
like talking about this because you know I know members sometimes watch this and they're like, oh, these channels are only created to talk bad about the church, and no, we're here speaking our truth, right? So I always
Yes.
tell people share the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're just sharing our story, our experiences. So far everything seems to be very good. This is in the beginning, so take me through that like time frame. Like, what were you feeling like? You know, what was being taught in the church, you know?
Well, I mean, the first study was like, keep the, Sabbath day holy. So,
Yeah.
and I really liked it. I went, so that was like one of the, the first one. And yeah, it was good to study every day. I just to start going, and they asked me to start coming Saturdays. At the time, my husband, was he was studying, so he was busy all the time. So it was just being by myself. So I had nothing to do. Yeah, I'm in a new city. I was like, yeah, sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're nice people. Why not? You know what I mean? So that's why I just like, yeah, sure, I'll go. And so I went Saturdays, in the beginning, just keeping, just studying. So I didn't keep service. I almost did actually in the first day because I couldn't, like, my car broke down. I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my God. And then I started seeing people going in, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna stay here. And I didn't know it was service, but
Right.
yeah, so then yeah, then after a while, then once as I got baptized, they asked me, oh, you need to keep Sabbath, and I was like, okay, so I went for a little bit. Obviously they don't ask you to stay all day, so it's
Right.
just like a service. And oh, would you like to stay here? Would you like a coffee? Would you like, stay for some lunch? Do you have some time? So they're very nice about that, and so it didn't feel very pressury at all.
Yeah.
So, and it's just like adding like little by little. Obviously you don't want to give too much. You know what I mean? That's why they're always like, we give you, baby food and then salad,
Yeah.
because it's like
Yeah.
just give you a little at a time. Don't
Yeah.
pressure you. So that was pretty good, and I followed along. So I started going and just went to the youth sisters. Went for a while, did that until 2012. That's I was I was like starting going. Sometimes I kind of left. It was a little bit felt like a little bit too much. But they're always nice about things, and say, oh, please come back. And I was like, okay, so I never left because I didn't believe. It was just like, okay, it's just too much.
Yeah.
And so then when Ron hit, I remember that I saw, and I
What year
I
was
mean
this?
in 2012 when they left,
Okay.
when he
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
left, like I seen Ron, but I never talked to him because he's obviously a brother. And so I was like in the youth, so I had really not that much knowledge about them. So I've only seen them when they give like the last prayer, the closing prayers, the beginning prayers. That's all I remember them here and there. But
Let me ask you this. Sorry to cut you off, but like just because this is a very unique perspective, I don't think I've besides Jordan Young, but I never asked him this. Like someone who was around Ron, even I know you didn't interact with him, but at least you got to see him in the church and like you said, even pray and how he carried himself. When all over the United States, we heard Ron was like this guy who never had faith, who showed himself to like not even care, and he was like a people said he was a biker. Like I remember missionary Michael would tell us that he was a biker. He was so worldly. From your perspective, in the time that you saw him carrying himself in Zion, did he look like that, or did he seem like someone who genuinely had faith?
I thought he had faith. I mean, I felt, a lot of people that go there are pretty good, so I was like, yeah, I didn't feel bad about it. But, yet again, like I knew him personally, never talked to him. So it's like when people say, you kind of believe because, like, you tend to trust people. You start trusting your friends. You consider them as friends. So
Right.
I felt like whatever they told me, it's like, oh, okay, must be true, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when he left, they were telling me that he wanted to become a pastor, and because he couldn't become a pastor, he decided to go against the church. So
Right.
I was like, oh wow, it's like wow. So I just,
Yeah.
I mean, I just believe, right?
Yeah.
Because why not? It's like, why would you have a reason why not to believe that person? So
Right.
that's how I felt. So yeah, it's like, yeah, okay, wow, that's bad. And I saw protests like, oh, don't necessarily remember I saw them, and they just like try because like I had to park outside because like inside is like it gets full, and I was like running late all the time. So I was like, okay. So I remember just seeing them, and they have people in just trying to like get you inside, and
Yeah.
it's like, and they'll text you like, just make sure you come really fast in, don't stop and talk to them, and
Wow.
I know, like that they had like I heard that they said text people to people, but I mean I never knew them, so they never got my number or anything like
Yeah.
that or my email, so I never
Yeah.
got any of those text messages. But yeah, so
Wow.
it was like more of those things that just kind of happened, and everybody that left, it was more because like obviously they had no faith and stuff. So
Yeah.
you know,
So that's interesting because you lived through two big things, like in your personal story.
hey,
Like,
you're making me feel old. Hey, you're like you making fun of you.
no,
I'm like
no,
the
no.
baby question.
I was in during that time as well. But obviously because I'm in the Midwest, I didn't
Yeah,
see
you just
Ron.
hear all these
Yeah, I just
rumors.
I
Yeah.
just heard,
Yeah.
but you got to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
So, but
Well, we're the lucky ones. We're the chosen ones because obviously, like, yeah, obviously we're the ones who get attacked, right? So
yeah.
isn't that blessing? So I
Uh,
was like, oh wow, we must be
yeah.
living. No, this must be really good because imagine someone really against you and you're
Yeah.
living it right there. I was like, oh, they made it sound like a very blessing thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You
And
know,
and who was the leader of the church where you were at?
no, Pastor John. So it was
Pastor
Pastor,
John.
yeah, Pastor
Okay.
John.
Okay.
So
All right. So let me ask you this. So can you as far as like the protest goes, what happened first? Ron leaving or the protest?
something I don't know.
You don't remember. Okay.
I don't know. I don't remember. I can't tell you yet one or the other because I can't remember. It's been such a
Okay.
long time.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean,
I mean,
2012 is what, 8,
yeah.
11, 14
It's like
years
you just
ago?
remember it happened. It's like, all these details. It's like, yeah, I just remember here and there stuff, like walking and
Yeah.
how I felt. And then it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And, stuff like that.
So let me ask you this, Daisy. Like, I know you say you don't remember much about the protests. Like, you were just told, like just don't pay attention to them or anything like that. But like it didn't seem like they were panicking or anything like that. They were just kind of just trying to like, you know, sh- turn
The
a blind eye
members
to it.
or the protesters?
Not the protest, because
No, because like the protesters, like I remember just doing that, but I mean, I just walked because I was like, okay, and I did actually during that time had also brought a a fruit at the time, and she was brand new,
yeah,
so I had to kind of like let her know about
yeah,
what's going on too. And I was like, oh yeah, I know this is going on, and trying to explain it too by telling her, oh, it's just like people who are just um same thing as they told me, like, people who were, against the church, and they left because they were just, angry about the church. And so I had to
And
cover up too, right?
yeah,
I know what to say. And, I was scared that she was going to leave because obviously, like, every fruit counts. Like,
yeah.
you know how hard, well, you don't know, you got like mothers, awards, but like people like me, it's like, it's so hard to, bear fruit. So
Yeah,
any fruit, and like, and she was a good fruit. So I'm like, oh, I better keep her safe. So,
yeah,
and I think they also had like, and my memory serves me right. I think, they also did it like the Passover, or someone protest, or they were planning to protest on the Passover, I
yeah,
think. And then I remember, because I remember telling you, my fruits, like, oh, be careful, you see anything, it's just people, protesting because of this happened.
yeah.
So, you know,
And it's crazy to me because like I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, right? But or any member that was there during that time, and but like even if I put myself in those shoes, because like hearing you say that and just seeing what's going on in my mind, I'm like, that's a red flag. But it's like I saw so many red flags where I'm at, and I did the same. I didn't pay attention to it because now looking back at it, I'm like, if I'm sitting at a church and I see there's a protest outside about this church, that this church is lying and that it's not good or anything, and they're trying to keep you like see like push 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 push, like don't pay attention to them, just come in here, they're wrong, we're right, they're wrong. And then I hear about a missionary who I saw like pray and do all these things, and then I see him leave and talk against the church. And it's like I'm seeing it because Deaconess Diane also came out around that time, and all
yeah,
this
I
stuff was
remember.
going
Yeah,
going
I remember
on.
watching the videos, but I mean, they just like explain to you like the way they want to explain it to you. So,
Yeah,
and then they made the videos. I watched the videos. You know what I mean? So, it's pretty good. You know what I mean? They're like, okay, well, she says, oh, they don't like black people, and they're like, oh, but look at this. With this year, we see that there's a black people. How is it that we don't like people? And there you go. There's a black
yeah,
person. You know what I mean? It's like all these things. Like, then you say something and say, oh, look, we see it here. So we see
yeah,
that one person. Oh no, we like them. Look, you see? You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
saying like I don't like, Asians, and then like, like, and then he's like, oh no, look, I have an Asian person here. I like Asian. So it's like, they just use like one little piece and they explain, look what we
yeah,
do. Oh look, they say one little. Oh look, we see here. But it's like,
yeah.
like you don't listen to the whole thing, so you don't know what
Right.
really is going on. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they might say, okay, well, we hate, they the church don't like black people, but they still keep a few here and there, but it's
Yeah.
not like their priorities. You know what I
Right.
mean? Kind of
Right.
like, why do we have like the Hispanic people still at church? They're
Yeah.
not giving us much, but they can, they can clean, they can,
Right.
work. Like
Construction. Yeah.
you need those kind of people there. It's
Yeah.
not like we want them like right there in the face of our church. We don't want them like being there, but it's like, it's
Yeah.
one
We
of
don't
those
we,
things,
we don't want them on the front
yeah,
lines in the
yeah,
pictures,
yeah,
but
yeah.
they can do everything else.
Yeah. I mean, it's like us. It's okay. I mean, you keep them. You keep them. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's just like those little explanations. So, you just think much. It's like, why not? And then you think about like, oh wow, like in the Bible, like they, people like against Jesus. So why same thing at this age? You say it happened to him. Why not us? You know
right.
what I mean?
And you
So
and they justify it very good. I can attest to that because I remember I used to try to come up with all kinds of excuses to tell the members why not to. Even I didn't know Ron, I didn't know any of them, and I would give people excuses of why they were
yes,
not good people and why you shouldn't trust them, which shows you, how brainwashed we were. My question is like now hearing you say that because I was under the impression that you watched their videos like by yourself. So you're saying they showed them to you guys in the church and explained them to you? Because if
yes,
that's the case, then that makes even more sense why it would be hard to even think about, their side because the church is showing them to you because they already have a plan of how to explain everything away.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, I'm looking nice today, so that way, in case they put me in the big screen, at least I look good.
Yeah, they're gonna
Yeah, man.
make a whole new video and say
Yes.
Daisy's this day.
Saying
I don't
this.
think it's gonna work with you though, Daisy, because there's so many people out there that already have gotten to know you in the ex-member community, and I mean, I would be surprised if like if they try to make you seem to be a bad person. The best thing that the only cop out that they could possibly say is like somehow Daisy lost her mind or Daisy became an atheist or Daisy, I don't know, moved to the other side of the planet. I don't know. But one thing they cannot say is Daisy's a bad person because there's no way someone can say that about you.
Thanks,
Um,
thanks, thanks.
so now
Y-
let me ask you this, Daisy. So after all that mess happened, right? The whole 2012 uh passed by. After that, what were things like in Zion, or were there things that you wanted to mention during those years that maybe you didn't get to
Well,
say?
I remember packing for my last day, so I have my
Oh,
emergency bag.
so
I
what
have an
was that
emergency
like?
bag.
Why
I
why
well,
why
I just
did you do that? Who told you to prepare those
they
things?
told us that we needed to prepare. So I mean, I'm usually a very person who has everything. So I'm very so I really kind of have like a bag, but not like intense. Like, oh, I better prepare like myself, like get more stuff and my food and my water
Yeah.
and get my things ready. So I was prepared because like I tend to have everything. Like if you people ask me, they always had to ask me things, and I always had everything with me. I'm like the person who has a bag, and I have this and I have this and I have everything. I'm like
Yeah.
super over prepared. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I was like they told us, and I was like ready for it for whenever it happened. I mean, we didn't
Yeah.
know, but it can happen, and it might happen this year, and it might
Yeah.
happen this year, and then look at what's going on. Oh, what's
Yeah.
going on? Oh, look, when first Trump happened. Oh, trumpet. Oh my God, like
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
it's the end, and I was like, okay, so I was just prepared, and
Yeah.
that did give me like a lot of like anxiety because it's like you're waiting and so worriness is like at the time like like I thought in my head, like, dude, like, I'm not gonna have a kid because,
Yeah.
like, the soon and the end of the world. That's like my thoughts. And I wanted to have kids. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I know like a lot of people, especially like when I first went there, like, I remember like I saw like members like together, and then like how, and I remember when I first got there, I had just recently got married, and I was like, oh, I see couples and and apparently it was like arranged marriage. And I was like, oh wow. And I was like, yeah, it's mother. Mother's the one who put them together. And so I was like, oh dude, I wish, in my head I was like, dude, I wish God would have put me together because, my head is like thinking, who knows you best, right? God knows you
Yeah.
best. So if God tells you that you should marry this person, like that's it. Like that's your soulmate, that's the person you're stuck with ever.
Yeah.
Like God doesn't make mistakes. Like I was thinking, dude, I hope I didn't make a mistake, right? I mean, I love my husband, like but you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
like we make our choices sometimes, but we think, oh, did I make the right, like, did I marry the right person? Was there someone else? You know what I mean? So you start
Yeah.
having doubts, and then I remember like, oh, I wish God would have told me that who to marry. Then I
Yeah.
first know for sure, like he's the right person. Like I'm never gonna divorce this person. I'm never gonna let go. So it's funny, like when I hear now all these people getting, that they got divorced
Yeah.
and what happened, and I was like, dude, like I never knew that in dwells in there. I never knew people separating
Yeah.
because like I was thinking in my head, like they told me that it's God. So if it's God's will, it's like it's 100%. Like
Yeah.
that's your soulmate.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna argue with that. So if they tell you, hey, marry this person, yeah, yeah, God told me, yeah, sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, especially if it comes through, through mother. Yeah, I mean,
Which is very very crazy to me because you bring up a very good point, and once again it shows like you really had faith, like you really believe this stuff, and just like we all did. But hearing
well,
you
same thing
say
with like
that.
Ron too. Like when he left, they
Yeah.
told me that they said like, oh, he physical things, right? Because Passover, he's not gonna be protected. Bad things are happening because that's why don't leave. You don't leave Zion. Don't leave during service. You stay during service. Like so, he left. So and he spoke about mother. I'm like, dude, you can't get any worse than that. I was thinking
Yeah.
that person's gonna die, burn. I'm sorry, Ron. I'm developing nothing against you, but I,
Yeah.
I, I'm sure I first apologize. Sorry, for saying these things. I know my thoughts were not the best, and I apologize.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
so
think he'll understand. He knows how, like, when we talk, like, I remember even when people were saying like worse things, like people that actually knew him, were friends of his, were saying so many bad things about him. And he said, I think he even said it in his interview, but he said it even like outside of the interview when it was just me and him talking. He mentioned how he doesn't hold things against the members because he knows how brainwashed they were when they were in there. He says, I was like that, so he was like, I was the one also defending the church, at one point. And so,
yeah.
yeah, it's really crazy to hear you say that. But one thing I want to mention is you brought up a very, very good point. How if we are told that mother does these arranged marriages, and 100% we are told that, they even have a video about it. It's called A Day in the Life of Mother, and
I
in
remember.
that video it shows her, and in the subtitles it shows her in her office in Korea, and she's like,
Oh
it
yes,
says,
yes. This is a good one for this sister. I remember. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, she's picking, like,
Picking.
choosing
Yes,
who's gonna marry
yes.
who.
So
So the
imagine
church
that. Like,
teaches you that, and then it fails. So basically, they would have to admit that she's setting people up for failure. God
yes.
made a mistake picking them,
Well,
right?
yeah, and then they can say no. God didn't make a mistake. They knew that this was gonna happen. They wanted you to go through this too,
Yeah, they
right? So
always leave them.
I mean, it's
It's
always like,
circular reasoning, right? Like they don't ever want to just admit that they're wrong. It's like, so
or you're
you're
the one. It's a mother. You're the one
right. It's
that
like,
the marriage failed.
so in other words, what you're saying to me is you wanted me to waste 10 years of my life, 5 years of my
Yes,
life with, like, it
yes.
just makes no sense. So let me ask you this, Daisy. So, like, what all did you do when you were in the church?
Um, when beginning, it was like, I was like just I was no, I'm kind of shy. If you can't tell. So I was like, preaching here and there. I was not very, very intense. I was just here and there. And I did go to different churches here and there because I work. So I used to go to Hollywood Zion a lot on Tuesdays because it was closer. It was like walking distance from my work. So I used to go there. When I started, I used to go back to my parents' house on weekends. I used to go to the Riverside Zion before it was a big church. It was still like an office church at the time. So I remember going there. So I used to just do that and just preaching to colleges and saying that I was a student. All these like
Yeah,
things they tell you to do. It's like, oh, hi, I'm a student here, and we're just going to
right.
survey, or we're from the academy. I'm like thinking in my head like, why we have to lie all these things? But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm not from here. You know what I mean? I don't come to this church, this college, but we had to say all these things, and so it was kind of one of those things, and
So many red flags, like, but we hear them all the time, and I remember doing that myself, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, why didn't I think of that when I was going out, when the church sent me out to go lie to people? Like, hey,
yeah,
we're
why
from
do you have to
Elohim
lie?
Academy, we have a class in
Yes,
the
yes.
college, Elohim Academy. There's no Elohim Academy. And it's just like, it's so wild to me, like, we never caught on to any of those red flags. I think it was because we were so, like, emotionally attached to the people, and because we believed that what they were telling us was true, right?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we're just very lost in the sauce.
Yeah,
um
yeah. So it was, I guess, yeah, you didn't think about it. It's like, why you have to lie? God doesn't tell you to be lying. Like, it's not telling you lie for me to do this. I'm like, no.
right.
Right? So it's like, but yeah, so we used to say all these things
But
in here.
they say that it's okay to lie in the World Mission Society. They tell you that telling a white lie is okay.
It is, yeah, it's just whatever beneficial. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, But I mean, we still did it. So like,
Exactly. Yeah, we still did it. I kicked myself
yes,
for it, but you know what? We're out now, and we can reflect and realize, like, man, like they got us good. They got us good. But thankfully we're out, and people are starting to wake up.
yeah,
Daisy, let me ask you this. So, like, okay, so you talked about what you did in Zion. Now,
yeah.
take me through maybe like what were some of the biggest, I don't know, stories, events that you might have like witnessed in Zion, or red flags.
Well, I mean, I should have. I guess for like Hollywood, Zion, they had like a movement. It was like, that was like missionary Rudy there.
Yeah.
And so he took over there. I was there, and I remember like a sister saying that he was saying that anyone who like people who signed this pledge that there were the 144,000, and I was like, can it be the 144,000? And what about us who didn't weren't there at this, signing this pledge that he's asking, and all these things that I always felt like he was making like the people saying that Hollywood is like the chosen one, that they are the 144,000. And I felt kind of like, I mean, I was going there, but I was going to go there on Tuesdays. Like on Saturday, my main one was Reseda. So I was like, wait, so he's saying that we're like, that they're the 144%. So I was like, I should have moved here instead then, because I want to be part of the 144,000.
Right.
So it was, he was very intense and very intense person. Like, oh, we need to do this, and very, bold and like do this and do that. So yeah, so it was that. And I did ask, to go if I can go see mother if I went by like without like being chosen. Like, those people I just like if I go to Korea, can I
Yeah.
go visit her? And they had told me no, because she's very busy and she might not have time and this and that. In my head, I was thinking in my head though, but I mean, isn't mother? They're always saying her mother is, wants to see us, and she's always sad. And I was like, then she should be happy if I come,
Yeah.
right? It's like, oh my God, like how can you, you come at this, random time? I'm so excited to see you,
Yeah.
right? So
You bring up a good point, because I'm trying to imagine if my mom is really busy at home and I go visit. I don't think she's gonna tell me, "Hey, right now is not a good time.
eh,
Don't come." She's
yes,
happy
yeah,
to see me because
yes,
she's my mom. There's that love there. You know what I mean? So that's another red flag, right?
yeah. I was like, could you see her anytime? Like a mother wants to see her kids as a dude. They live with me if possible, right?
Yeah,
Like they want you to see you all the time.
yeah,
But like, well, can I go see her? Have like, the money, and I'll go. Like, you guys don't have to do anything. Just let me see her. Open the
yeah,
door for me. And
yeah,
no, this and that. She's busy and this that.
yeah,
I was like, oh, okay, so I guess it's a no.
yeah.
So yeah, I
And
was like, I felt kind of like, okay, you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah,
So
and when Daisy, you're a mother. And so I would like to imagine, like, right? Obviously, I know your children are small, but they get
oh yeah,
older,
I'm
right? Let's
planning
say,
already to move in with them. I like, wherever you guys go to college, that's where I'm moving to.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Why
hopefully you guys are,
though?
huh?
Why? Because
Oh,
you
because yeah,
love them.
yeah, that's all I want to be. Just want to be close to them.
Yes.
So I was like,
Right.
dude, like we want to be close. So I don't know, it's like they say her mother is sad and can't wait to go to heaven to go see be with us.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, we have the chance to see her right now too. Can we at least give her a little bit of happiness? So
Yeah.
that way she's not, what I mean? It's not that much because she has thousands of children, but at least a little bit. So she feels a little bit happy, or we're not that important. She just wants to make sure we all go. It's like, oh, yeah, I mean, like, no, no, no.
I'm definitely going to say this, and I know this is going to make a lot of WMSCOG members mad, but you're 100 times better mom than Zongyo Ja. I'm sorry. Like, I think that any real mother, like, okay, let's look at the differences, right? A real mother wants to see their children all the time. You don't even have to ask if you can. I know
They
that I
pop
don't
up
have
and
to
see
call
you.
my mom to go see her. I can just
Yeah.
go, right? and I don't need to wear a name tag so that my mom knows who I am. She knows who I am, right? I don't, if you want a mother that you write to her and she doesn't read your letters but gives them to someone else to read them, then maybe she does benefit, some people. But a real mother is going to be there for her children and really care. Like, how many members, I will include myself, I'm sure you have as well, because we're all human. We all go through things. When I was a decade inside of that church, there was multiple times that I had so many problems in my life, so many times where I almost gave up and I was just so down. If she was really my mother, why didn't she reach out to me? If she's God, all knowing, all powerful, why didn't she write to me? Why do we have to write to her? No one's ever asked that question. We're encouraged to write to her. Wait a second. She's God. Shouldn't she be the one making the effort to reach out to her children? But on the other hand, when a child like you, I want to go, I'll go visit her. I'll take the trouble. No, I don't even want to do that, right? I'm busy. It's just so crazy to me, Daisy. So crazy.
Yeah. Oh, you see there, yes, your flag, but I was like, okay. And it's just like whenever I travel to like different, Zions, it was so hard to get addresses. It's like, so because like I went to Florida, I went to Puerto Rico, I went to like Wyoming, and I went to Texas. I went to a few Zions here and there whenever I travel, and I always ask for address because I want to make sure I don't miss any service. So I want to make sure that the Zion is close to my travel. But it's so hard because they don't give you an address right away until like a few days before you leave. So it's like, well, I need to know there's a Zion there because I don't want to be traveling hours. Like, you know, we went to there in Wyoming. We had to like go for 2 hours. My husband like, took me and we had to go early just to get there because it was so far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I felt like, why do you have to be like why do you have to give it to the last minute? Like we're just asking for an address, just give us an address. So then we can, work around it. And so I can make sure I go there for third day. I can go there for Sabbath. I don't miss. You know what I mean? So it just felt like it was so hard. It's like, why? Like it's so secretive. Like even when I, actually showed up one time to church, like they have to like expect you. They call. So apparently they had called, but I guess they forgot. And so I showed up. Like I own this place, right? With my bag, sit down, and got my envelope. It was right there. So I just got it, sit down, started singing because it was like still singing. And I can see people like looking like who is she? And like everybody confused. It's like, do we know her that we're expecting? And then
Yeah.
the sister comes and sits next to me. But I'm like, I'm like
Yeah.
normal, like just singing and
Yeah.
I just continue my own little thing. And then afterwards, like they're like, "Oh, where you from?" And I like told them, and at the end of the service, they're like, "Oh, you come in?" Like, "Oh, just like did they I guess they forgot about it because afterwards they're like, "Oh yeah, I do remember." Then afterwards, I guess they had told them that someone was coming. But it's like, dude, you have to be expected. It's like if I don't
Yeah.
have you pencil in, like don't show up. And it was
Right.
just hard to get
It's
like these
weird.
addresses. And I was like, dude, and you go in there and they have to expect you, need to know who you are, and they'll let you in. It's like, dude, like it's like a
Yeah.
private event. Like if you're not
Yeah.
invited, like that's it. Or like this is like church. We are like they're always saying like please come, like let them come. Like how
Yeah.
are they gonna come if you don't let them come in? You don't you
Exactly.
hide addresses. Like dude, like you should tell like let us know where you go. We can give it to you right there and then. You know what I mean? It
Right.
should be open so you can go. We want you to go to church. We want you to make sure that you go to all. So tell us where you're gonna be. We give you the address. You go. You go when
Yeah.
you can. You can't. You know what I mean? You don't have to let anybody else. If you don't know the person, you show up a few days before. You have to. It's like
Yeah.
please contact this person and tell them what day you're gonna be showing up for that church.
Yeah.
It's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, it was something. It's like it was so hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's weird. It's weird. Like, it's true what you say. They make it so difficult even to travel, somewhere to another state or another city when, I think of normal Christian churches, you don't got to do that. Like, you just show up. And when you show up, they're not gonna make somebody get up and all weird and like sit next to you and oh, I got him, I got him. You know what I mean? Like, let me check him out. Like, it's just very weird. It's like robotic type stuff, like, and it just shows you like this place is really ran like a business and organization. And it just reminded me also like how they tell you don't associate with, don't talk with people from other Zions, and like I don't know, it's just all around behavior is just so weird. It's definitely not normal. But anyway, that being said, Daisy, what are some of the red flags that, well, I guess
More red flags.
you've already given
Yeah,
like from the
yeah.
beginning so many
And
red
it's like
flags.
it's funny because how they treat like other because like so I was there when they opened the Riverside Zion. That was a big one because it was a big church. It's like more bigger than the Reseda. So
Yeah.
that was a big deal because I remember being in the office with them when I used to sometimes just for service here and there as I was going to my parents' house. And yeah, like so the opening, I'm not sure who came. It was I don't know if it was general pastor. Someone came. Apparently it was very important because we all had to be there, come early and be there for the we love you. He was the car was passing by the driveway and greeting him. And then like I remember like I was in there and they treat him like a king. Like when he was eating, I remember passing by, selling all this great food. And I was like, oh, I wish I had all that great food. They just served like anything there for all the
Yeah.
members. It was all members. It was like probably like sandwiches or something. He was
Yeah.
getting like a buffet. And I was like, oh, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I was like, he's being treated like a king. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So I mean, that was
And
like another red
that was
flag.
General Pastor.
I'm not sure who it was, but I knew someone that came to, because it had just opened. So it was someone who big. I don't remember exactly who
Yeah.
it was, but dude, it was important that Visita had to come. Everybody had to come, and we had to go. We love you. I had to try the, recording as it's going. I was like, wow, you know what I mean? It was a
Yeah.
big event, and
Yeah.
you know,
And,
I mean, I don't know. You might have to ask somebody
and
else.
and they do that. They do that. Like I remember even when like a General Pastor came to Colorado as well, and I met him, and it was one of the worst experiences that I've ever had. Guy was so arrogant, but as far as like when pastors would even travel, I remember like Daniel Park would travel a lot to Zion's, and when he would, like they would bring out the best food. You know what I mean? Like the sisters would have to make his room, like all this special attention and special stuff, and it's just contradicts what the Bible says. Like Jesus says, I'm your master, but I'm washing your feet, you know? And it's like these guys is the opposite. The higher you go, the more they want they expect you to treat them like royalty when they should be the ones serving. But where do they get that example from? From the very top, right? And so, I'm sorry, WMSCOG members, but again, it just really shows you that the ones who lead your organization, they're not good servants. They're just want people to serve them. And that's just speaking the truth. But anyway, Daisy, what other stories do you remember while you were there?
Well, I mean, it's just like kind of like obviously they ask always for money for here and there, and at the time, I wasn't making any, I was working, but it was just me. Yeah, I mean, I was just me. My husband was still, a student at the time. So me, I don't know how to money that much. And I mean, I did my best to help out here and there, but it's always like a project here, you tie here,
Never
that food
stops.
here, and then this here. And I was like, dude, like it was just hard. And then for the envelopes, it's like envelopes for everything. It's like to give to the Zion and to give to this, and I was like, just a little, I mean, barely like the green envelope, and that was too much. And then,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it was something. I was like, ah. And then obviously going preaching, like I started going preaching to Simi Valley, which is like, they're trying to open a house church. At the time, they're trying to find people who are willing to have their home used as a church.
Mm.
So I guess there was a couple that end up, volunteering for that. So we started going there to preach around the area, and I just end up in that Zion at the end.
Yeah, so
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 so I
basically,
ended up moving.
oh, so you moved.
I
Okay.
moved. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a little bit more distant for me. Not that much, just depending if there's traffic. So sometimes there was a little more too much traffic that
Yeah.
it took me longer to get there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, a little double. It was like 15 minutes to go to Reseda and 30 minutes to go to Simi Valley. So,
Yeah.
I end up just going there. And so I end up there,
And you
at
like?
the end.
Did you like it better over there?
Oh my God, yes. So
Really?
it's like, yes, yes. It was the best experience being there. People there, it's amazing. So I started going there, and I end up, getting pregnant a few months later. So, it was a very tight, there was just a few, members there, and, they were very, it was really nice. It felt like home. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It felt like a family there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The deacon, he was more, very, like, let's do this, let's do that, very like organized like this. But
Yeah.
his wife was always like, if we had issues, we always like tell us, sister, can you tell Deacon this, because he's doing too much of this. And she's like, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And next thing you know, it was like,
Yeah.
things were like different, and I was like, oh, thank you so much, sister.
Yeah.
So it was very nice. He was always a very kind person. They're like they're like family to me.
Yeah.
So it's really good. So we actually, I know, like, people say that they don't celebrate birthdays and stuff, but we celebrate birthdays there right after service. We
Yeah.
used to do is like whoever's birthday it was, we right after last service, their service, we were cleaning up, putting the house back to its place, and the person who was a birthday person would try to keep them busy outside while we get out cake, and then we're like,
Mhm.
at the end they come in and we're like, happy birthday.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
it was fun. Like, we
Yeah.
celebrate birthdays. We were very close. Um, we actually stay after service sometimes until like 11 o'clock. Um,
Yeah.
practicing our new songs, because sometimes we were so bad. It was like we couldn't remember. We didn't know how to sing. So,
Yeah.
but it was a fun time. It was an
Yeah.
intense. It was our preaching. Obviously, as soon as like service ended, preaching.
Yeah.
And then could just come back and then that. So I did get pregnant. So I just stay a little bit sometimes behind, but I still preach.
Yeah.
I preach until I couldn't, that much. For my first son, I couldn't, because I did have bed rest. So I had to be more careful with him. For my daughter, though, I did preach until the day I had her. I preached on Sunday, and I had her, at 1 in the morning, like at 1.
Wow.
So yeah, so but that with her, I was preaching having contractions every 10 minutes. So I'm going up the hill, and sister's like, oh, sister, are you not gonna have a baby right now? I was like, no, okay, it's just 10 minutes apart. We're good, we're good. So I preached
Wow.
that day, and I had her Monday, and I came to service on Tuesday, and it was for both of my kids. I both had them both on a Monday, and I both started going to church on Tuesday. But I was very lucky because it was vaginal. So I understand there's people who had C-section, and I don't know how you guys did it. Yeah. So, and for my son, I did have like postpartum depression. But as I said, I had very good people in that church.
Yeah.
So they took care of my son, and I was able to pump there. They let me go into their room and pump there. And we were so close entire family that I know I was able to pump. Like, sometimes when you pump, you have a cover, and
Yeah.
everybody else is there, and we're having a meeting as my
Yeah.
pumping thing is going.
Yeah.
We're like so close together that it was like, yeah, do what you need to do. We're cool, and everybody
Yeah.
took turns taking care of my son. You know, and when I was able to start preaching, they knew I was very, clingy to my son.
Yeah.
And then they took pictures of him, sent me pictures during I was preaching to just let me know what he was doing and stuff.
Yeah.
So it made me feel very comfortable going to preaching, knowing that someone was there taking care of him and sending me pictures, knowing that I wanted to see what he's doing and making sure he's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a very, good experience for me. Being with them, it's, they really, and that's like how church, like, so nice, so kind, helpful, always talking, and even though we sometimes we went to events together, like, events that her the sister had a daughter, she has a daughter, and I went to her event, her graduation. I went to her performance. We did things as like family. Everybody, doing things as family. You know what I
Right.
mean? We took care of each other,
Yeah.
and it was really amazing experience. And
Yeah.
yes,
I want
the
to say
best.
like because yeah, everything you're saying like it really shows a difference. Like I honestly I'm happy that you had such like a good time. You know what I mean?
Yes,
That it wasn't like anything, horrible because we've heard so many different stories. But I think it's
yeah,
important that you also mentioned like that, the good times and how
yeah.
you were treated good there. But I
It
also
was.
wonder how much of that had, was it that you were in a bigger church and you went to a
Oh, it's
smaller
modern.
church?
Yes,
Because
it did because
one thing we
some
always, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. No, sometimes I had to go back to Reseda,
Yeah,
and you can feel the difference and
yeah,
like the way they preach and you have to be 144,000. You have to preach, and it was like a very frustrating time because
yeah,
I felt like I can't preach. Like I have my kid. It's hard. It's hard to like. It was hard to bear a fruit. I
yeah,
couldn't. It was just too much, and I felt very stressed
yeah,
going there because I felt like they're expecting something that I'm just not like, yeah, great. There's some people who are very good talkers and they can convince anybody, but not everybody is like that.
yeah,
And I feel like they're pushing it to the fact that if you can't preach, it can't bear fruit, then you can't be the 104,000. And then
yeah,
you see all these videos, people, making, bringing thousands of fruits. And I'm like, well, I knew for sure I was not going to be the 144,000 because if we count the whole world, and a lot of people are doing much better. They're bringing a lot more people, and then you have to do that. You're like, okay, well, there goes that for me. You know what I mean?
it's so sad to hear
So,
you say that because it reminds me of a lot of people that have told me, how they felt about hearing stuff like that. And also reminds me of my wife, which you know very well. And she was one of those people who I remember would cry because she couldn't bear, as many fruits. And you definitely heard that in the church where if you don't bear fruits, you're not 144,000. But they would also say things like, if you don't bear good fruit, then you are a
yeah,
bad
yeah.
tree. And what happens
Mm-hmm.
to bad trees? Then they are burned in the fire. And it just, this is why it's so hard to, it's important to mention the good things, but it's important to also understand that even though these good things happen in there are genuine good experiences in there, but it doesn't negate the fact that this
Yeah,
place is a cult and they still do a lot of damage to you psychologically, emotionally,
yeah.
and spiritually.
Yeah, no, yeah, it did because it's like, there's no way now. Like now with kids, like I mean, for sure, like all the mothers are not gonna go because they're like the ones who make probably the least. You know what I mean? It's the
Yeah,
brothers who decide not to take care of their kids and just focus on that, and they'll be the ones who bear fruits. I was like, what about us? You know what I
right.
mean? And just it just felt, it was very overwhelming. It's like, well, I do other things I'm able to do. Like I did the fasting. I had my son fasted. He
Yeah,
fasted since he's been born. Yeah, I
right.
mean, I had him, keep every time that we had to fast, he was part of it. Yeah, I mean, my daughter, not the first few years because she was so skinny and underweight, and I didn't want her to lose any more pounds.
Yeah,
But for my son, I did from the beginning. He fasted, and I was like, well, I'm doing my best. I'm having my child fast. I'm supposed to fast. And, not even that. And they make more pressure by saying that now whatever you are is, whatever you do is affects your kid. So then guess what? If I don't make it, then my kids aren't gonna make it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it gives you the worriness that that's it. Like if how hard can you work? You have to work so much more just for your kids. And like you end up having kids, you love your kids, you want to make sure that they're gonna be okay. But it's like if you don't, it's like then you're gonna blame on you for not be able to bear fruit.
yeah.
And it's your fault that now your kid not able to go to heaven because
And
obviously they can't bear fruit. So
yeah,
it's your responsibility. So it's like, dude, like you have so many other things on top of it for you to them to add this to to your load. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like it's already stressful being a mother and taking care, making sure your kid has everything, and they're always getting sick, and you worry about that. And now you have to add that, dude, if they're sick, I have to take you to church. Like, you have to be there every Saturday. I think, as far as I'm concerned, they had to be there. He had to be there in order to get blessings
Yeah.
because it wasn't through fruits. So he had to get blessings from somewhere else, and hopefully that will be enough. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like even like there was an event that happened. I had spoken in one of the videos about one time that um after first service, my son stopped breathing,
Yeah.
and I had and I got scared and I thought he died because he was all blue. Deacon told me like, he's blue, and I got scared. And then another brother shows up and he's like, "What happened? He's not breathing. He's not breathing." And then he's like, "Give him mouth to mouth." And then I look at the deacon, and deacon gave him mouth to mouth, and then he seems to get back and he started crying, and we're like, everybody just in shock. And in my head, I think, well, you're in Zion, there's no way you can die, right? Like, you're in Zion. Like, how can you somebody no one can die? So I'm thinking in my head, he can't be dead because we're in Zion. You know what I mean? You could
Yeah.
die somewhere else, but he can't die in Zion. There's no way. God tells us that we're in Zion, we're protected. So once we're out, okay, right? And then keeping Sabbath. It's Sabbath day, so it's like, okay, well, you really have to be protected. Yeah, I know once you get out from Zion, bad things gonna happen to you. But while you're in Zion, there's no way nothing can happen to you. You're protected. God's protecting you. No physical things, bad things are gonna happen to you. So why is this happening to my son? You know what I mean? And then like that's like going in my head. I was thinking it's impossible. This is what they told me. This is what they told me. So in my head, I just repeat myself. This is what they told me. Told me he couldn't that he nothing could happen to us. You know what I mean? I come to
Yeah.
service. I don't leave between service. I take all Saturday. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
leave between unless it's preaching. But it said because I was told to go preaching, so I'm protected because God's protecting people who go preaching.
Yeah.
So if you see that, it's like it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm doing everything correctly. I'm there all day. I'm not keeping the service and going home. I'm keeping service, staying there, and getting there early, making sure I got everything and following directions as they told me. So I make sure I'm there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I need all the blessings possible. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't have the barren fruit thing, but I'm doing everything else possible. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was crazy because then after that, like we called the doctor, like we called and they told us, okay, how long come to to see the doctor and go to urgent care. And my head was like I didn't know what to do. And like my sister had told me, it's a sister who runs this church. She's like, oh, I'll go with you. And in my head, it's like, I don't want to because not only am I going to get in trouble because, like, from God, because I'm getting out from church, but she's going to get in trouble. And I'm going to, and then now her life is with me. Like, if she doesn't go to heaven, it's because of me, because I took her out from church. Yeah, I mean, because they make it sound like, if you bring someone out of church, it's your fault. Like, if someone falls away because of you, your blood is on, in your hands. So I'm like, I'm not gonna have now the blood in my hands too. If she gets out from church and she's like, no, let's go. And I was like so hesitating, and like imagine like your kid that this happened, he just came back from like looking like he was dead, and you still not willing to take him to the hospital because like you don't want to miss service. And if I leave service, am I gonna be back before second service? Am I gonna miss service? What happens if I end up missing service? What's gonna happen to me? It's like, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's like all these feelings I had, and that sister convinced me to go, and she came with me, and um yeah, it was like it's called holding breast spell. So it's just it just happened and it's okay, so I was like, okay, but it's just the fact that the fear of leaving, you know what I mean? And I had someone else to convince me to go take my own kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it becomes very, scary, you know
And
what I mean?
I just want to highlight because that's like I can't even imagine. But one thing that I can say, Daisy, is like I've seen you around your kids. You love your kids a lot. It's obvious. And to see that you did what you did because of what they put in your mind. Even when we want to react as parents, even when we want to react as a normal human being, you can't, because if you really believe this stuff, you're going back to what they taught you about these type of situations. And that is one of the things that they taught us, that if you kept the Passover, if you're doing the will of God, nothing can happen to you. So you feel like you're being protected. And that is scary. But it's not right, because what they're doing is they're giving people a false sense of security. And then something like that situation could happen, or something even worse out in the street somewhere. And if that was to happen, then what then? Who's going to take the responsibility? It's not going to be
They
them.
use it as example, like, every single time something happens to people, they used to say, "Oh, look, this happened because they were not in Zion." And there was a boy that this and now he was in Hollywood Zion. He had a accident and he hurt his arm, and it got damaged. And this happened on the Sabbath. He decided he didn't want to be in church, and he started living his life. And look what happened. He was If he would have been in Zion, this would have not happened to him. And
They scare you with stuff
yeah,
like that.
because he was outside of Zion, look what happened to him. So, what does that mean? Like, don't leave Zion, don't leave, don't get out, stay in there. Don't, unless even if you're dying, just stay there, because you're not gonna die in there. And no matter if you have errands, whatever you have to do on Saturday, like, you get that things done before that, because you can't get out. I was like, you know what I mean? Sometimes I used to sometimes look at people like just going out, like, during between services, like, what are you guys doing? Like, why are you testing God? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Bad things are gonna happen to you.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's scary. It's sad, what I mean, when I
yeah,
think about it, how, I had to have somebody else to tell me to take my own kid.
yeah,
And though I'm very grateful that she did, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, she really pushed me to go for it.
yeah.
And we did actually barely made it actually for a second service. And it was like a long day. It was like, because it was like 45 minutes to get to the doctor. I had to take them and, be there and then coming back. And even sometimes it takes a long time. And we actually did make it right back before service.
Oh wow.
But, I was like, my God, I was like, really not good. I was like, my stomach hurting me just thinking like, that am I gonna make it on time? Now I have a sister, something happens, it's gonna be my fault, because last I have a sister outside of church. I'm bringing her out. Like, you're supposed to bring people out of church.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very stressful. And it's it was crazy. It
And
was just much.
I just want to say, like, I hope that the members who are watching this realize how unhealthy this is. And here's the thing. This is why it's so hard to talk to people inside the World Mission Society, because I remember when Ron's video came out with Steve Hassan, and people were just, instead of trying to pay attention to what they said and examine what was being said, it was easier to just say they're both evil spirits, and then make fun of someone like Steve Hassan, and say he thinks he's an expert, he thinks he knows so many things, he doesn't know anything, he's just a tool of Satan. He's trying, because he was pointing out things that were not right. He was pointing out red flags and weird and dangerous behavior. And I can't help but think that sometimes members watch these videos and they think, oh, they're just, they don't know what they're talking about. Zion is not really like that. Father and mother love us. The God will protect us. God will do there. Zion can do no wrong. And these are the type of situations that, that talking like that and being in that type of environment, that's what it breeds, is situations like this where we don't pay attention to them and really sit back and think for a second. Is that correct? Is that normal behavior? What if something else would have happened? There's so many different situations that I've seen in Zion. Like, Even like you're telling this story, and yet like you were saying, you were still more worried about like coming back to the church. Or even when someone offered, told you, I'll go with you, right? You were like, no, because I'm worried about your salvation.
I know.
And it brings so much fear. And then they say, no, we don't do that. We don't use fear mongering, we don't use scare tactics. Literally, that's all that it was. Everything, that whole situation that you went through, it's just screaming red flag. Like it was all, everything that happened there was because of the fear that they put into you. The fear of not being in Zion, right? The fear of being late to service, the fear of having someone else's blood on your hand, the fear of not saving your child, of not having faith in father and mother that they would protect your child through that situation. Is it because maybe something that I didn't do right, that I might have not bore fruit? There's so many things that come into our mind, and we have to ask ourselves, is that healthy behavior? And it's really not. It's really not. It's not normal, and it's very dangerous behavior. And so, I'm just thinking of all the parents inside of Zion that have young children that are still in there. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. Think critically about these things. Don't just push it off and say, these guys, they're just lying and they just want to make Zion look bad. Daisy, you spent a whole part of your interview talking about how some of the good times you had in Zion, great people, and I was happy for you to share that. But also, when you're telling the truth about this place and the experiences that you had, I hope the members can understand that, just like you said those good things, and they can accept that they also accept the bad things that are going on in this place, and that they can really take it to heart and think about it. Think if those situations are right, and they can't deny that these type of things happen in Zion. It's very unfortunate, but I'm very happy to hear that, because obviously your son is amazing, very smart boy. So, I'm glad everything turned out, well. But yeah, anything else that you want to share about that part or another story?
No, no, I mean, I guess we can go to how, that was like a few years and then COVID happened, I guess.
Mhm. COVID.
So,
COVID
yeah.
was a big deal for a lot of people inside of the World Mission Society. What were you told when COVID hit inside the church?
Well, I mean, when it was like, actually when COVID hit, I really did very well when it came to studying on my 70
Mhm.
subject. Actually went through all because like, I didn't have time. That was the
Yeah,
problem. You had to be there personally to do the subjects.
yeah,
But online it was much easier. It
yeah,
was easier to do that. I started hearing some members were falling away because they were not being, they were not keeping service correctly. They were telling us that a lot of sisters were not wearing their veils correctly, and they're like doing all these studies. And, though it was a lot more services, like, every day it was like some kind of meeting and education. And it was like every day, you know what I mean? Which was okay for me. I can just listen up and just be with the kids. And um, yeah, it's the Passover bread was something else. It was so hard to make that bread.
yeah,
And it's like if you don't make it perfectly, like you're done. So it was
yeah,
so stressful. That bread is like, do you have to make it perfectly? It has to show up like this. It has to look like this. If it doesn't look like this, you're not doing it correctly. It was
yeah.
like days of practice and it's so stressful. And it's like, am I gonna get it right? I was like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Yeah, yeah.
So
More
it,
fear mongering,
it
to get
yeah.
everything right. Everything has to be perfect,
Yeah.
in the
I
world
mean,
missions.
yeah, they had said, like first it's like, okay, mother, says it's okay, we can still keep on coming to first it was like we can still keep on, but we have to follow the rules from, the law. So
Mhm.
let us, stay, indoors, inside our homes and follow directions. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
they did tell us to kind of keep it, but that mother's protecting us. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I was like, okay, fantastic. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But
yeah.
let's just follow the rules, of man too. So it looks good. It doesn't look bad that we're going against it.
What?
Especially because I think like I remember hearing like there was one not like our church. not like the World Mission Society, but a different kind of church that a lot of people got COVID and they got in trouble. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking that they use that little experience to tell people like let's not do this because we don't want to be in the news for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. That was Shin
So
Chun Ji that did that.
was it? Oh, I don't know
Yeah.
what I don't know. There was something that didn't listen, and I guess they got in trouble.
Yeah.
And yeah, from the government or something. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, So it was. I really did really well because before that I never did my 70 subjects, and I really did all of my subjects at the time.
Yeah.
So because I
So
had time.
I think that that's a very good point because I again you're just making your case even harder for them to try to disprove because you were talking nice about them for a lot of part of the interview, had very good experiences in the church, right? And then during COVID, when they say a lot of people fell away from COVID, that was a prophecy. You did better. You had stronger faith during that time. So it's like, what are they really gonna say? So I guess my question now, Daisy, is like, if you do you want to get to the part where when did you start doubting, or what made you even start like going the route of like how did the whole situation of you leaving even happen?
Well, okay, so like through the years, like going back, what happened to Ron? So I'm a very curious person, and so I used to Google him a few times, here and there, just to see if he was like, sorry, Ron, just to see if he was dead. I was like, okay, he doesn't, I don't see anything, so he's still alive. So I was like, okay, because like, okay, like if you think, I think in my head, like, imagine like bad things happen to people who leave. So imagine the person who speaks against God. He's like the worst, right? That person like they come, right? They has to die. He's
Yeah.
probably like the worst. He's probably like a homeless person. Like I really felt like the worst of the worst.
Ron is
So
gonna laugh when he hears this interview.
I'm so sorry. So I was like, okay, so I used to just Google him here and there. So, nothing ever came out. Besides like the old videos, which I never watched because why? If I really want, they already show it to me at church. There's no reason for me to rewatch something that I already watched. And I had so many other things. Like they want me to read all these books, the green book, the blue, the brown book, every single book. So and doing all these things, the least I have is time to be
Yeah.
watching his videos, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
have to keep you busy. If you have time, then you have time to wander off. They do not need your mind to be wandering off. So I had so many things to do. So then, actually after COVID, we went back to actually we had moved to an office church. So I guess it was a little bit overwhelming for the deacon and the sister there to take care of that, especially because they have a daughter. So two new people came in to help them. So they were supposed to be helpers. But right after like we came out of COVID, that missionary and the sister ended up going back to Reseda. They just couldn't deal with the new ones, the new people. So then I also had to deal with them, right? And we had a brother, during the time we were in house church, I guess they we, because I see myself as everybody, we bear fruits, a brother, an old brother. Um, Arturo, he was old, diabetes, he barely can walk, and that missionary always picked him up to his house every single time. Or he had another brother. It was like usually there's not too many brothers. There was like three brothers in the house church. So they took turns taking him to church. You know what I mean? Every single Saturday, he used to always be there. Very, very dedicated brother. Like he was there every single Sabbath, um, all day, top it off. So we came back and because that missionary, I mean that deacon, I want to call him missionary, deacon, and the sister went back to Reseda. That brother needed someone to be picked up, and the new, deacon Jared, and his wife, they didn't pick him up. So they said that he needed to be picked. He needed to find his own way to come to
Mhm.
Zion, and well, which is understandable, I guess. But sometimes you can give someone a ride. It doesn't kill you. I mean, they're already late people. They were like, like our deacon previous, he was there super early, opening up, Zion, everything was good. That deacon he used to come like 5 minutes before service started. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you're supposed to sing like 15 minutes before, and
Yeah.
everybody's waiting for you outside. And so they come late. So I was like, I mean, they probably just didn't, want to pick them either. But, I heard that they were told that they told me that, oh, okay, well, they, we can't pick him up. He has to come his own. So he did find a way to, a service that will bring him, but they bring him very early. And so guess what? He has to stay outside waiting. This guy is old, and sometimes it rain. I mean, it's California; it doesn't rain hardly. But dude, when it rained, what was he like waiting there still? When it's cold, he's there waiting, and I just felt like at least have the courtesy to show up early to open the door, because now he's waiting. I come with my kids, but I'm in the car and I'm trying to help them, but I had like a newborn. I had a newborn and I had my, 2-year-old kid. It's like, it was hard. And I used to come almost like on time too. So I was like also, almost rushing it too. So by the time I showed up, that a few minutes later, the other people showed up. So it was not really helping, but sometimes he would show up there early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I did one time get there too early and he was there and I told him to have a seat in my car, but it's hard for him to get out too. Like
Yeah.
he can't walk. So for him to try to go from over there to come to my car, like was it really worth it for him? It's like, oh, I'm okay. And I felt very bad. Like, why would you do that? And he's old. Like, why can't we keep him, why can't you guys pick him up?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. So, but the excuse was because the church told him that you had to come in your own way to church. And I was like, but like we were doing it, but I guess the other deacon was, as I told you, they were really nice people. They always make sure he came. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He left his house, go pick them up, brought him back to his house. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I was like, you guys can do the same thing. I don't know. It was horrible, but you know, he he ended up getting COVID and he died.
Oh,
And
wow.
just the fact that those people, like Deacon Jerry and his wife, they knew and didn't tell. Like I felt like they should have told me, right? Because we were like kind of like family. So there was like a family, like of like what 10 people in the house church. I felt like those like your family that were there. And we have some people that come here and there. They were not like very like there with us. They were telling their buddies, those people first, that that person died. I had to hear from somewhere else, which I thought it was kind of rude because we're like family. You want your family. If something happens to you, you don't want to find out that something happened to your family from someone else. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like you tell me right away what
Yeah.
happened. You know what I mean? Now that you had to tell everybody, and then somehow it comes to me, and it was just sad, to hear that. And the fact that they didn't seem to really care about it. Yeah, I mean, they were like, okay, well, he died, and okay, and his family, I guess, knew that he came to the church and asked, oh, do you guys do any special like, service or do you, and no, nothing, or they didn't seem to care, and that really hurted me. Yeah, I mean, it was very sad, like I remember that the other deacon, he was very sad too. When it happened, he I think believe he also even cried, which we all felt very passionate because he was very nice. We were there. It's like family. He was there. He was very helpful. You know, he was such a loving person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that's really hurting me, and the fact that and I also um like I had my kids and like the office church was kind of like split up by the service, like where the main sanctuary was, and like where we have dinner, and that became like the kids' playground and stuff. Not playground, but the kids' area. But they started making it like a mother exhibition. So like that whole area was like really like you know busy, and the kids can be running around because they had all these exhibitions and stuff like that. So the kids couldn't play there, and sometimes it was just me and my kids, and I had to sit there watching TV with the kids and tell them not to move while in the other room, they're doing a meeting. I was like, why can't I just go to the meeting with my kids?
Right.
I was like, so I can find out what goes on in the meeting. So I felt
Yeah.
like I was out of the loop. I was just sitting down watching TV with, with two kids, and they're small. That's the last thing they want to do, sit down. They want
Yeah.
to run around and walk and run, and play
Yeah.
around. And I was like, well, that's kind of right, because the other deacon, when we had meetings, sometimes when it was just my son too, we all had meetings. When my son was part of the meeting, I mean, he would come there and they feed him. We had like, popcorn, and he was eating popcorn, and we're all just having our meeting as we're just doing this.
Yeah.
But this one is like, no, I was there. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, if I'm gonna be here, I'm just gonna go back to Reseda. So
Wow.
I was like, I said I'm gonna go back. They didn't want me to come back to Reseda. So someone had to come and talk to me and tell me, oh, sister, they really know how to put people, down, like kind of like under the bus, because they were like telling, oh, Deacon Jerry, he has a lot of personal problems, and that's why he does what he does. They were like just talking bad things about him, and
Yeah.
I was like, wow, why do you need friends if you have people like that? You know what I mean? It's like they sure are the first ones to throw you under the bus. So
Yeah.
in my head is like, I don't care what's going on with him. In my head is like, what about me? Like, I'm stuck here, unhappy. I don't know what goes on the meeting. I want to go back. And it's like, I'm going back at this date. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll talk to pastor. And but then we got back. But I already had decided I'm going back.
Yeah.
So the day came. Well, the Saturday before, I came and just passed out my little goodie bags to the people from, Simi Valley. Bye bye. Oh, you're leaving? Why don't you tell me? I was like, oh, I already had till my date. I was like leaving, so I left. And I showed up at Reseda the next Sabbath. And then the sister comes like, oh, sister, didn't know you're here? And I was like, I told people I was coming. And if I can't stay after service, I'm going back home. But I ain't going back to Simi Valley. Like, no,
Yeah.
no, no. We'll talk to pastor. And they went to talk to pastor. And I mean, they had no choice. They had to keep me back, take me back. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not going back. I'll go home.
Yeah.
If I have no, a group leader, I go
Yeah.
home. I don't mind, but I won't go back to, Simi Valley. So
Yeah.
I end up staying at Reseda. So I end up going back to Reseda, and it was there obviously it gets a little bit more, busy and stuff, and there's more kids, so my kids were happier there. More events. So I like the fact that I had like a lot of, kids activities. So I was like, okay. Um, but when it comes like I don't know if just I never noticed because I didn't have kids, but when it comes to like the time that you're supposed to repent, there goes the list of things that you should repent in case you needed ideas, and the papers they give you to read, which you can take pictures of, you can write, you can just look and read it. So what was one of the things that they said is that, one of the things you can do is make sure that your kids are not an idol. You know what I mean? If you are with your kids, if you put your kids first, they're your idols. And so that was something you shouldn't do. And that really bothered me because, I was like, dude, my kids are my number one. And I'm doing everything I can. I like, so I always like, because obviously beginning of time, like, can you go preaching? I was like, no, I have my kids. I have to do with this kid or my kids this. So it's like, oh, you're using your, kids as an excuse, right? So that becomes your kids become an idol, right? And you don't need that. You can't be, so that really bothered me. That really bothered me. I never got that out of my mind. The fact that that's one of the things in the list that your kids can be an idol, because the fact that it's like kids can never be an idol. You know what I mean? Just because you want the best for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, it started just little things here and there. You know what I mean? Hearing things, but then yet again, like when they said that if you don't tithe, you cannot keep Passover.
Yeah.
I heard that during service. I panicked because my husband he's baptized, but he does not attend the church. Um, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen to him, right? Because I mean, he can't keep it. And I asked, it's like, hey, what's gonna happen to my husband? Like, he's not coming. So, and he only comes for like Passover because he does it because I asked him to, and that's the only one he's willing. Sometimes he'll come. Actually, he did come a lot during Simi Valley. He
Mm.
did. He really got close to the people there too. So he did show up a lot. That was like the only place. Once he moved to office, he's just like, oh no. But like when I was the house church, he was really like, he did show up a lot more,
Yeah.
and he did get close to the people there too. But yeah, I asked, and they were like, "Oh, no, it's okay, sister. He can come." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." So that was the end of that. I cared much about it. I didn't think about it. Then why would they say something like that if they're gonna say it's okay, right?
Right.
Didn't know it was meant for other people. So I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, okay." Or when they said, "Oh, if you keep one service, I mean one feast, but you don't keep the other one, it doesn't count. So you have to keep all the service, like all the fees." So then I was like, oh crap, because like sometimes my husband will show up to one service feast, but he won't come for the other feast.
Right.
So then should he not even come for the first one? So then I asked, I was like, well, what's gonna happen? And then they told me, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. He can come to just one. He's okay. And I was like, oh, okay. And in my head, I was like, yeah, right. I mean, I don't mind, but like,
Yeah.
why would I say something like that? I get scared, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, I care. I care about sister things. I care. I care the people who stop coming. Like, I had like, sister, that one sister, daughter was not coming, and dude, I was worried. It's like, oh, she's not going to heaven, because she's not coming to church because, like, you know what I mean. And it's like, oh, that's the end. She's going to hell, and I cry for that sister's daughter, thinking she's not gonna make it. That I'm not gonna be able to see her, and I love her. So it's like if you don't want someone you love to go to hell.
Right.
So whenever I didn't see that sister, I just went home and cried thinking, no, she's not coming. Oh my God, she's not getting blessed. That's it for her. Oh my God. So it started like little things here and there, and just questioning things like, oh, like just like the evidence book binder that we had. Um, like they don't sell that anymore because I asked because my folder got a little damaged, and I was like, can I have one of those, evidence book? Um, and they're like, oh, we don't give those anymore. I was like, oh, why? No, it's like, and they're like, oh, it's not necessary anymore. I was like, really? I was like, I thought it very useful because you can show all these proofs from like these magazines and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's just like little stuff here and there. Why would you stop something that and it looks like hard work? Why would you stop something that might be doing well? But I was like,
Yeah.
okay. It's all these things that you just not worry because like you don't question it. You don't just think that if there's something wrong, they will tell you. That's how
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I
And
don't have to pull teeth here.
and I do want to mention this, Daisy, just because I think it's important. Like because I hear you mentioning about how they let your husband keep one festival, and even though he wasn't tithing, and like they let him do a lot of things that a lot of other members like would not get away with. And I think that it's important mentioning like your husband has a very good job. And I think in my opinion, I think that has a lot to do with, them breaking their own rules for the potential return that the WMSCOG looks at people like investments, and even if they think, well, maybe he's not where we want him to be, but maybe through her and her faith, maybe in the future we can get him, and boom, that's how they're thinking. Because I know hundreds of members that didn't get that same opportunity. One of those was me myself during that time when they told because that was a whole that must have been like a worldwide thing, because I heard this same story from all over the United States, but also in my Zion it happened as well. They told us that year, I can't remember what year it was, but they told us unless members are tithing, they cannot keep the Passover. And so you need to tell whoever. So they called the leaders to basically call your group and all the people under you So I start calling my people, but then I was like, wait a second, what about my father? So I asked about my father, and they said, you need to tell him. And Daisy, it is one of the hardest things to do, to care about somebody so much. He's my dad, my flesh and blood, and he believes this stuff. But at that time, he's an older gentleman. He had a lot of health issues. Still has health issues. He wasn't working because he was disabled. He wasn't going to get his disability until later. He had a heart attack, a stroke, and just seeing him at the time, how he was, and to have to tell my own dad that he cannot keep the Passover because he's not tithing. That broke my heart. And what makes it even worse, what makes it like sick, I'm embarrassed to say this, is when my dad said, but why not, son? I don't understand this and that. Me, as a World Mission Society Church of God leader, and always trying to make excuses for them and justifications for the members, I did the same thing to my dad. I tried to explain to him why it was God's will and how it made sense for him to not be able to receive salvation because he didn't tithe. And now I look back at that situation and it makes me sick to my stomach, because it just shows you like how this place is just, it's wrong, it's evil. What it shows you, what they care about, where their heart is at. And yet they have the audacity to talk about the Roman Catholic Church and how they sell indulgences, how they sold indulgences back in the day. Indulgence is a paper that they would sign to and sell to the members of the Catholic Church to forgive them of their sins. That is what the World Mission Society Church of God was doing. Is you need to pay in order to receive the forgiveness of your sins, salvation through the Passover. How is that not hypocrisy at its finest? But anyway, please continue.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, for like what 30 minutes of pain and sorrow before the pastor told me, they told me it was okay for my husband to come, to keep it. So but it was, yeah, I mean, I understand. It's very, it's very, stressful, because like after I hear that, it's like during service, it's like panic in my head. It's like, what am I gonna do? Like, my God, like, how is it that he's not able to do it? What happens if we father comes? Like, he's not gonna be saved because, like, dude, like, he doesn't have the password. Like, he's done. Like, oh my God, and all these ideas, things in my head.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was very, stressful when I, heard that. And, yeah, I mean, it like they told me it was okay. And yeah, obviously when here he came, like pastor showed up. Like, I see pastor everywhere saying hi, and all over, that area whenever my husband was there. So it was I mean, I guess now I can see it, but
Yeah.
before it was like, okay, he's just saying hi, brother, because like, my husband's a brother, maybe, and it's like we want other brothers to say hi so he can feel welcome and maybe
Yeah.
come, right? So you start thinking all these, things too, and um, yeah, and just like my daughter has like milk allergy too, and just the fact that like I was very cautious, like making sure she doesn't get things like they always ask, but kind of like one time, I guess they didn't ask and they forgot they were looking for me, which I was just in the main sanctuary, and someone did give her like items with milk allergy. Good thing it's not to the extreme that she has it. But I was a little bit upset, but then thinking, oh, it's okay, sister. But my head is like, dude, like you guys
Yeah.
have to be careful. Like I'm very cautious for her to just come here and you guys just give her anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even to this point, like she doesn't eat school lunch. I pack her lunch because it's like, I want to control what she can eat. And I'm always cautious, like, oh, what's going on? What do you feel? Right. By now
Yeah.
she can talk better. But before it's like she doesn't. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so she eats, she assumes that it's okay to eat and she starts eating it. And there goes her allergy. And the stickiness comes like, oh, sorry, sister. I thought I had told sister, to ask you. And I guess they didn't ask you. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
like this kind of stuff, it's kind of like when it comes to people's house, like, you need to just be careful, or,
Yeah.
just I don't know. I mean, I know that you guys want us, like the moms, to go and listen to other sermons so we can be more, into the cult, but still, it's, you
Right.
know,
That
take,
they want you to do they want you to get more indoctrinated. They're focusing on you, but they don't put that same kind of attention on the children. That always made me upset. You know what I mean? Because you're right. It's sad to say, but we all know that it's not a secret. Their priority is the adults because the adults are the ones who are going to bring in the converts. The adults are the ones that they can use to move around. The adults are the ones that they can use to contribute to the church, whether it's financially, whether it's construction, whether it's cooking, whether it's cleaning. The adults are the focus. The children are the secondhand citizens in this situation. So, yes, they will look after them, but it's with the intention that the mom and the dad are the one that is going to receive, the education and the indoctrination essentially, and it's very sad because yeah, you're going out of your way to take care of your children only for them to just do whatever they want, you know what I mean, or not be paying attention to. You're trusting. One thing that people need to understand, the World Mission Society, is two parents, WMSCOG, because there's a lot of the leadership who doesn't have children. To the parents of children, our children are not secondhand citizens. We don't want our children treated as secondhand citizens. If we entrust our children under the care of the World Mission Society, we expect them to be treated the correct way. We expect them to be looked after like if they are really your heavenly family, like if you really care, right? And I think that a lot of the times, they fail the children. How many stories have we heard? How many Red Flag Friday episodes? How many interviews have we done? Even recently, there's going to be an interview that's going to drop pretty soon of a young lady who, did her interview on the show, who grew up in Zion, and she was a child of church leaders, and now she's an adult. But as a child, she experienced so many horrible things, and she's going to share her story, and it's very sad because it shows that Zion doesn't put the same emphasis on the children. They don't really keep eyes on them like they should, and it's very sad. And as a parent, that's a red flag. It should be a red flag going off in your mind. Do you really want your children to be in a situation like that, an environment like that? Because I guarantee you, if something was to happen, they're not going to put the blame on themselves. That's the one
yeah.
thing about the World Mission Society, is they'll never take blame. They never say sorry. They just put the blame on somebody else.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Usually when I leave my daughter, I was like, also like give them like the EpiPen. I was like, here it is in case something happens. Like you guys. So I mean, they're all pretty good. Like, when I to take care of her, and they know, and they'll ask. Now we have a little bit more people who are have allergies, so they're more cautious. But it was like just. When it happens to your own kid, it's like, oh no, don't do it. No, I don't
yeah,
want anything. You know what I mean? I was like
yeah,
super cautious about everything. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
so it kind of bothered me a little bit, but I was like, okay, oh, it's okay, because like you learn there to always forgive, and
yeah,
that you shouldn't, when it comes to your brothers and sisters, you have to forgive everything.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, so yeah, I was like, okay, whatever. But also like how sometimes used to say how don't hang out with like people outside of
mhm,
church.
yeah,
Um, if there was something, or like don't have them like work for you, because like they will say, yo, you don't want blood, bad blood between you guys.
yeah,
Um, it was like, okay, so they just didn't want you to hang out with people. I mean, we still kind of did. Uh,
yeah.
so I was like, oops. But it wasn't
Yeah,
that bad. I was like, just a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. They're
Oops.
so weird. Again, that's just another one of those weird things. But yeah, I'm glad that a lot of us, we still did what we did. I think
Yeah.
even a lot of the leadership does, because it's hard to live that type of lifestyle like a robot and not,
Yeah, because it's like, why do you feel like it's like you're doing crime, or like hanging out with somebody, doing something you're supposed to? It's like, dude, like we're not doing anything criminal. We're just hanging out. Like what? It's like like the way it make it sound, it make it do is like if you hang out with that person, it's like you doing something wrong. And the next
Right.
time you go to church, don't say anything. Don't say
Right.
that we hanged out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, like why? It's like no
Yeah.
kids. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Don't tell mommy I did this. You know what I mean? It's like no,
Yeah.
no, like don't. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was like something else there. But yeah, I guess now I'll talk about my exit plan.
Okay.
Like
Now I'm excited.
like exit plan. Why do people need exit plans, right? I'm like, oh wait, I got an exit plan too. It's like it's crazy. It's like why you're breaking out of prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is how you know what I mean. It's crazy how
Yeah.
you have to plan this. Like really, like why do you have to plan these kind of stuff just to
Yeah.
leave a church? I'm like,
Wild.
it takes a whole a whole thing to just kind of do this. It's like no, like if you want to leave something, should you just be able to walk away? No,
Yeah.
if you have to make a whole plan or what's
Yeah.
gonna happen and what happened if this happened, what should you do with this? It's like seriously. So
Yeah.
I like people start making your it's something. So anyway, so um one day again I was starting watching looking for Ron and oh, oh sorry Ron like yeah so I was like and then I saw Jordan Young. And then I was like, wait, I know him. I was like, I mean, I don't know him, but I know of him. So I was like, hey, I know him. I was like, oh, why he left? I was like, oh, I didn't know he left. I was like, oh, let me see why he left. So then I started watching him. And once I started watching him, I was like, oh yeah, it's like, yeah, I remember this. It's like, yeah, everything he said is true. Like I can recall all that stuff. So then I started watching other videos because like it, has more videos. And I was like watching and I'm realizing. And then like at the moment I was like, oh my God, I think I'm in the cult. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I was thinking in my head, how do I tell my husband what's been going on? I feel like I was thinking in my head, like, well, my husband doesn't even care at the end, but I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I watched the videos and started like hearing all this, you guys' suggestions. I like don't talk, don't when you leave, like give yourself some time, don't talk to them, like, and I was like, okay. So don't talk to them. Give myself some time, to reflect and a week or so. And when is a good time to leave? I was like, okay, Passover is coming up. I'll leave the day after Passover because I was planning actually to go to Vegas for a few days because it was spring break.
Yeah.
But come back before because it's Sabbath and then the resurrection day, so I have to make sure I'm there back, right? Because my there's always something going on. So
Yeah.
like okay, like do that, and after the Passover, I'll keep the unleavened bread just in case because in my head I'll still like oh my faith is still like there. Make sure right? I want to be protected, and then
Yeah.
give myself some time, and then um come back. So and then I was like, okay, so I had to like figure out what I'm gonna do because I was like thinking in my head, I was like, how people were saying like that just like because like when I found out like father, had was married and had his side piece, I guess.
Yeah.
Um so like after like the video, Ron and all that people came out, that's when like little things start happening and start hearing things. And then I found out that he had kids and then all these things. But then just make it out like, oh, he had it, but like, okay, it's not a big deal. We don't care about physical. It's talking about spiritual. It doesn't matter what his physical life was.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it's like, oh, he always saying, oh, he was suffering and he had, walking so hot and this and that. He was always hungry with his little porridge and all these things. It's like, well, they're worried about his physical life,
Yeah.
but then they don't want us to worry about his physical life when it comes to
Right.
being married.
That's
I'm
weird.
like, you know what I mean?
Contradiction.
Yes, it's like, then don't worry about his hungriness. You know what I mean? That's his
Yeah.
physical life. We don't care about his
Yeah.
physical life.
Exactly.
We don't
Exactly.
care about his, suffering, or, and then so I started like looking. I was like, because I had watched a few videos, but I hadn't watched so many, so I wasn't sure what I was gonna do. I had like, I was like kind of in, but kind of out.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny afterwards. I was like, oh God, like I need some kind of like sign in my head. So I didn't write to mother. because I watch one of the videos too about like, about mothers. I was like,
Uh,
oh, dude, like it makes sense, right?
yeah.
You ask for a sign, and next thing you know, on Sabbath you get a sign. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it makes sense. All these
Yeah.
things, it's like, oh, to God. She also don't write letters because, like, obviously sometimes you do write letters. I wrote letters. I wasn't in detail because I was like, well, um, or I'll make up like just say something like in general, but not really there because I was like, oh, I don't know, like God knows, right? God knows my
Right.
heart. He knows what I'm talking about. I don't even have
Yeah.
to say much, right? So
Right.
I was like, oh, dude, that makes sense. Like, how they answer so fast your calls. You say, give me a sign, say
Yeah.
this, and next thing you know, on Saturday they say whatever they need to say, and I was like, okay, okay. So I was like, I had watched a few, but I was just making my exit plan and just like, okay, let me watch some more videos in the future and kind of like do this. And that's when I had emailed you because like I saw Ron's video that you had posted that right after that. And I was like, oh dude, like I remember. And I remember that the deacon had told me how, he said bad things about him.
Yeah.
So that's when I emailed you and asked you, hey, like, oh, can you ask Ron this? And then you did ask, and this is, reply from him. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, okay, so then this is like a one-sided story. They just probably just told him what they want to hear. And it's kind of those things, it's like this person said this about you, but you don't confirm it.
Right.
And it's like, and that's what happens. Like we do, like when someone's talk bad things about you, you don't go asking to that person. You tend to just like hate that person. Ah, this person, oh, like this. And I was like, I don't think no one ever confirmed him anything. They just probably just assume whatever the church told him
Right.
and, and told everybody. I
Right.
mean? That's how I feel. I mean? I feel like if you had talked to him, like, did you talk? I mean? I think like, do you should talk to him and at least have him say, yeah, I said this.
Right.
And say, okay, well, yeah, I confirm he told me in my face. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
no, it's more like, oh, he said it. He said that you're this. And you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
and you feel offended and you don't talk to that person because this person told you this and then you don't say anything. And that's how things happen. And I was like,
Right.
oh, it makes sense. So it's like, it was more like he said, this and it was never confirmed. So
Right.
I was like, okay. So I just ended up that no, and then so I decided to just I had to tell some a sister because they wanted me to take care of the kids, and I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be here. I was like, oh, why not? And I had just happened to miss the 5 a.m. service on the living bread because I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm leaving that day, so I missed it.
Yeah.
As soon as I show up in the morning, oh, sister, you didn't come for the 5 a.m. What happened? Did you fall asleep? And I was like, yeah, because I never missed, not five.
Yeah.
You don't see me missing the 5 a.m. services. I came for all the services. I
Right.
was like, oh, so dedicated. I would look at other people like, someone didn't keep 5 a.m. service, right? I was
Yeah.
the one who was like, telling sisters, oh, sister, or sister, you need to preach. I mean, I was shy. I didn't want to do, signatures there when I was in Visita.
Yeah.
But I sure make sisters preach. I'll like, oop, I'll tell you like, oh, I'll go like, oh, Edgar, brother Edgar, let's get a signature. Come on, I'm ready for you. Just start, just start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll be the one who motivate people out there, telling them people like, let's get signatures. So I'll give them. I won't preach, but I'll give you signatures.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like the one doing that. So when sister told me that, and I was like, yeah, that was it. I just overslept. I was like, no, I'm just trying to leave. But then I told her like, I'm gonna take a break. Like, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet. I told her I just need some time, which is true. At that honest, I really wasn't sure. That's why if I was sure, I wouldn't have kept Passover and fasted the next day because like,
Yeah.
why would I fast if I know I'm not coming back,
Right.
right? But I was like, well, I don't know if I'm coming back. I better still do follow directions and really, take the time because I'm like, I'm gonna take your suggestion and take, at least, a few weeks and see how
Yeah.
things are. And then if I still feel like you're wrong, then just go back.
Right.
Simple, right?
Right.
So I did say it and I did say don't tell anybody anything, right? I'm just taking a break, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And guess what? And pastor shows up. I was like, oh hell no. I like snitcher. No, I just like to sit there. But I'm like snitcher. I was like, I was like anger. I was like, oh, I don't snitcher. I was like, you know what I mean? And she's like, oh, she's worried about you. I'm like, dude, like, which I understand, like, which I know it wasn't not intentionally, like she did it like more like a worriness,
Yeah.
but like still, like if I told you to like hush, at least
Yeah.
hush, and at
Yeah.
least wait till I'm out of there to start like snitching on me. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it was funny because right before I was like, another sister comes in, right before Pastor showed up. She came, she's like, "Oh, did you watch the video?" And on my head, I was like, "No," because I was like in the other room where the kids were, they were sleeping, so I didn't see any video. And she's like, "Yeah, they were saying how to be a good gospel worker," and then she's like, "And they said that you need to be good mental health, and you need to be 5'5." And then and I looked at the other sister, and I looked at, and we looked, and she's like, "Did you just hear what I just heard?" And then they're like, "Yeah." And they're both not 5'5", so they're like, they pretty much like, but it was so funny. And then I looked at them, and then I was like, somehow I feel like they're gonna twist this thing and then tell them that they heard wrong. But it was just funny when I heard that, and I was like, okay. So they're putting videos of how.
So now there's a height requirement
Yeah,
to be a gospel worker?
yeah, 5'5", because you have to look. Hey, dude, you have to look good. You have to look good, right? Because okay, think
Oh
about it.
my God.
If you think about it, top people. Who are the governors? Who are the people? The top people. Top people are the people who do look good. That's why
Yeah.
everybody wants to be tall, because when you're tall, guess what? You look better. People somehow say, "Oh wow." You know what I mean? You get
Yeah.
more admired. So you want to be tall. Who wants to look a short person? I'm sorry, not offense to anybody, but if you're a
Yeah.
short person, he comes and talks to you, you ain't gonna take him serious. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh hell no, I'm 5'5", so I'm good. And then I was like, I didn't have like good mental. I was like, oh, I was like, okay, I like the good mental, man. Like, they don't want you to have any kind of health issues, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh hell no. So I just thought it was so funny when she came in, she was telling us. I was like, and then sister was like, "Are you sure you heard this correctly?" And she's like, "Yeah." And even asked my sister who's next to me, and she's here. I was like, oh God. So like, I'm sure they probably covered it up and told her, "No, sister, you heard it correctly." Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, like, she's not gonna make it. I'm sorry, like she didn't make it. She's not five. None of the sisters that heard it are 5'5".
Right.
And I mean, mental health. I mean, we can. I'm sure that everybody can have some kind of mental health going on here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so I was like, sure, okay. So I thought it was just so funny. And then at the moment when she was talking, that's when Pastor showed up. "Oh, sister, can I talk to you?" And I was like, oh. And I looked at the other sister because that was one sister I told. So I looked at her, and I was
Yeah.
like, thinking in my head. And then we went, and I took your advice. It's like, don't say anything. And the pastor's like, "What happened? Why are you going?" And I was like, "It's nothing, just want to take time." "Oh, it's something that we did." Because like the day before, he was like, "Oh, your husband said I washed his feet yesterday for Passover." And I was like, "Uh-huh." I said, "Oh yeah. I washed his feet, and you know, I watch your sons too." And I was like, okay, like, making the whole
Yeah.
thing. It's like, was it because like when you guys were trying to get out, you guys couldn't get out like from the parking lot? And I was thinking in my head, why would someone leave like church just because they couldn't leave? It's like, it was a traffic jam, right? It's called
Yeah.
it's nothing big. It's just called,
Yeah.
traffic jam, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But he was like, "Oh, was it because of that?" And I was like, "No," but he's like also concerned, like, like your husband, do you feel like, there's something wrong? Thinking like, he was like more concerned about my husband
About
than
your
me.
husband. That's what I'm noticing. Like, that's wild. That's
About
wild.
my husband. What about me? I was like, like, "Oh, did your husband tell you not to come back?" Oh, because like he thought like, well, maybe my husband got offended, like he couldn't get out fast enough from the church, and we're stuck in this spot, and all these cars had to get out. You know what I mean? And then Pastor had to move these cars so we can get out. You know what I mean? Like, get out of the way. My husband's in the way, right?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, yeah, I was like, no, but I was thinking in my head, like, dude, like, you're too much of my husband's business, like, I was
Yeah.
like, my husband. I was like, okay. And so I didn't say anything. I was like, no, I just need time. Nothing. And I just refused to say anything. I
Yeah.
just didn't want to say anything because in my head, I still wasn't sure. but I still needed to make sure I was sure before I say anything. And I
Right.
wanted to make sure I had my story straight and all
Yeah.
my, everything information correctly before I even say anything. Because I was like, well, yes, true. If I just say whatever I think, they can just move it wherever they want. And with
Right.
me, you have to be able to verify or know, how am I going to know this is true? So
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I know and I have all my information. And so, I was honest when I told him, like, I don't know, I'm just taking a break, which is true. I wasn't sure if I was
Yeah.
coming back or not. So I wanted to take a break. And so I did. And I just keep on watching more videos. And, and I do have, hearing the suggestions and stuff. And I know that they try to talk to me. And eventually I did tell, some sisters what happened after, a while. And they're like, oh, I guess they wanted to pass her on to see if I can come talk to him. And I was like, you know, I do have a few sisters. So, one of them I did say, well, tell him I will talk to him, but um, tell him that I want those books, all those books, father's books. And if I can't get those books, I don't want to go back. I was like, oh, Pastor has in his office, you can see them. And I was like, that's not what I asked. I asked, I want them. I'll pay for it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
was like, he worked for so hard for those books. I want those books. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I want all his books and nothing. I also said, well, I can talk to him, but I need this to be recorded because
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm not gonna be, no offense to anybody out there, but like I was like, I'm not gonna be fooled by what, he said something and then he said, she said.
Yeah.
Like, I heard all these videos from you guys, it's like proof. I was
Yeah.
like, you're not gonna make me look crazy.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'll talk to him, but I need it to be recorded.
Right.
I haven't heard back. I was like, okay. So I was like, okay. So I mean, whenever they asked, I was like, yeah, I can see them. Yeah, I mean, it was a pastor, it was a missionary that wanted to fully. I was like, yeah, I told everybody yes, as long as I can be recorded. Why can yeah, I will do it. But
Yeah.
I guess I never heard back. I
That's
was like,
smart.
yeah, I mean,
Smart.
and then so yeah, so that was the end. So I haven't heard, yeah, I was like, okay, it's okay, it's okay. You know what I mean? So, which is okay. Like if they wanted to clear things up, they told me they wanted to clear things up. I'm cool. I
Yeah.
just need this to be recorded
Right.
to make sure that everything that's been said is being recorded somewhere. But yeah, you know what I
And
mean?
and why not? Why
Yeah,
don't they do it unless they know that the answers that they're going to give when you ask them questions about those books are not questions that they want to get out, because they know that the way they're going to answer them is going to be a complete, just
they're gonna.
choppy.
Yeah, they're just gonna see like give you a BS and see if you take it. If you do, then great. If you don't, then give you a different answer and see if you take it.
Exactly.
So it's like okay, so you just wanna see person by person and see if like, hey, if I tell you this lie, would you believe it?
Will you
Oh,
believe
you're
it?
not? Okay, let me give you a different lie and see if that will bite. So it's like
Yeah.
trying to see what bites, and then from there it's like, okay, we're done with you. You took it, you're good, and then move on to the next person.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, no.
That's not what's going to
So
happen with
yeah,
Daisy.
and I was like, I'm not gonna be look, I'm not gonna be doing. I'm like, I'm not gonna be, like Ron here, and
Yeah.
be
then
told
then
all these
somebody's gonna
stories.
be then somebody's gonna be Googling Daisy to see how Daisy's doing, right? I wonder if anybody's Googled me to see like if something's happened to me or something. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Let
So,
me
but
let
now
me
it's not physical. Now it's spiritual.
yeah.
I was like, yeah, no, that doesn't count no
They
more. I was
just
like,
switch,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I was like,
So let me ask you this, Daisy. So, like, since leaving, what has been the things that have helped you the most to realize that it's not a good place and that it's not the true church? Like, what advice could you give to members out there, that is a good way to for them to, understand that it's okay to not have to be inside the World Mission Society, that you're not going to get hit by a bus, you're not going to get hit by a car, or suffer this, craziness that we think is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you do get hit by something, it's not because of God,
It's exactly. Yeah.
because they sure like to bring bad things up when it comes to that, but when it comes to other bad things that happen, during church time, oh, they don't want to bring that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's like,
Exactly.
dude, you can't do one. So it's like, if something good happens to you, you say, oh, it's because of God, thanks to God. But if something bad happens to you, no one says anything. Oh, because things are good. I got.
Yeah.
I mean, like no one says bad thing. It's always because of God. Like when good, which we have to be thankful always.
Yeah.
But not only just bring up the great things that happen and just like say, oh, it's this. But
Yeah.
also it's because everything is because of God. You know what I
Right.
mean? If we get hit, it was just God
Yeah.
too, okay? Don't say it was because you didn't keep the Passover. Yeah, I mean, that's
Right.
kind of scary. It's just because it happened. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
just pray to God that, it's not, straight, but things happens.
Right.
You can expect everybody to just not, you know, just stay alive. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I mean, the advice, it's just like, look and do your research because like, I feel like as I watch more videos, start asking myself more questions and, I was able to make better. So for me, it took me longer. It's not like some, like just see and it's like, okay, my process was like, okay, I need to take things more calmly, more clear, take my time to really review things, making sure I do, prove it, gain the Korean stuff. And just, I asked a Korean person, a non-church member, what things said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say it because I don't need the church to tell me BS. I don't
Mhm.
want them to say, I can confirm it.
Yeah.
But you ask a random person that has nothing to gain, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So,
Yeah.
I asked like my kids teacher, can you, um, tell me what this means. And then she told me, and then she's like, oh, I was like, it's like, it's like, oh, it's a new church. And which is like, she's like the teacher this year for my daughter. So like she asked me like, oh, are we celebrating? Ariel can celebrate Halloween and all these things. I'm like, she can celebrate everything now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But because I had told her like, my son doesn't celebrate this and celebrate this, and you know what I mean? Doesn't celebrate
Yeah.
anything, right? Even like the Korean holidays, I had to double check with the pastor and see if he can celebrate because my son is in a Korean class.
Yeah.
So he has to, so they celebrate the Korean, stuff. So she asked me about my daughter this year, and I was like, yeah, she can celebrate any of that stuff. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to
Yeah.
ask me. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but I did confirm outside. Like, don't confirm at the end of church.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so you can confirm what this says. Yeah, I mean, you can get your Bible and ask somebody else. You don't have to ask what the church tells you. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
just you do it. Yeah, I mean, so it's like you do on your research. Confirm, see everything that they're saying, print
Yeah.
it out, and ask the right people. Find out like the tax returns. Find out if it's you want to do. Find out if it's true. Ask other people. Don't ask the church. Ask everybody else. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the church should have told you everything at the time that you were in the church, not afterwards. If they
Yeah.
wanted to explain to you everything, yeah,
Right.
no, that's
Yeah.
not how it works. You know what I mean? I was like, no, why would they say all these things? You know what I mean? Church,
Yeah.
how it was, it says, how was your church built? It was like, oh, through a revelation, through the pastor. And I was like, hell, that's not what they told me. I
Yeah.
mean, I like, they're making up stories, like, paying for funerals. I was like, you guys do not pay for funerals. And
Yeah.
then the camping for like kids, for the people, for the youth. Like, I was planning to go to the camp to pay my own stuff if I was gonna go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like that's they're paying for any or
Right.
orchestra. I did orchestra for like the adults. Like we had to do like a song. I had to pay my own stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they didn't pay for anything. I was like, what are you talking? Why is this tax return saying all these lies? How many more
Yeah.
lies are you saying? You know what I mean? Things
Yeah.
that we don't know, things we don't. It's like, no, like, don't ask them.
Yeah.
You get your own stuff, look alike us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ask the other people. And, just don't write to mother. That's all I have to
Right.
say. You know what I mean? Because all your information is not going towards her. It's going to other people. I mean, unless you want to talk bad things about that person, then go ahead. You know, do that, but that's on your right. And
Yeah.
you know, just don't sign anything. I know that's kind of hard because like church tells me to do it, and I was like, here you go, sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like blind there, right? So And just give yourself, I guess, time and do things, and just if you want to get out, just record. You know what I mean? And say,
Yeah.
I'm recording you. So anything you say will be recorded. And you will
Mhm.
see how fast they leave you alone. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Or
Yeah.
ask a question and record it. Or like,
Yeah.
okay, I have a question, why this? And record them. They
Yeah.
see the recording. Whether it's, oh, I don't want you to record me, they'll stop. They'll stop.
Yeah.
So if you want them to stop, if you want to exit, just get your phone and start recording and say, I'm
Yeah.
recording. Can you explain to me this? And
Yeah.
get answers from right recording,
Yeah.
and have them tell you what they feel in the recording,
Yeah.
and post it out, and
Yeah.
and say, look, I got the answer. This is the answer, people. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? This is your answer, Edgar. Let me see, pastors, said this and said that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? No,
Yeah.
no, no one's showing up. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, like, no. So that's the easiest way you can do it. If you want an easy exit plan, just record
Yeah.
people here, and you'll
Yeah.
see that they stop talking to you. So don't be scared to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, I love your advice because it's something that hasn't been shared before. Like, that's actually a very good idea. I encourage people, like Daisy said, record them, right? Like, obviously, can make sure there's consent, but that's a good
You show
way.
their phones and I'm recording you. You are being recorded.
Yeah.
So they're now, if they start talking, they know that you're recording. So they know
Yeah.
that's been going on. That's up to you. Like, I don't want to be recorded. That's a different
Yeah.
story.
Okay.
Then we have
If
nothing to talk about. You know what I mean?
exactly, there you
And
go.
you know what I mean? So yeah, we're in a state that you need to put both. But if I'm pressing recording and you're there talking to me, you're
Yeah.
agreeing to be recorded. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? By you talking after I told you, hey, you're being recorded. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's how
And
the message says you've been recorded. So you know that you're being recorded. And if you keep on talking, then you know whatever you say will be used against you. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So I was
And
like,
and
okay.
and they don't want to answer the tough questions being recorded because they know that those answers are not official. They know those answers don't make sense, and they're nervous to give those type of answers because they're
Yeah.
scared that they're going to get out there.
Which makes sense because my whole time I was like, why can't you just like show like put it in YouTube, put it in the news, so
Yeah.
it gets to more people and more people can come. My thought was like
Yeah.
that's more faster, right? But
Yeah.
no, they want you one by one because that's how they can do it. If they do a whole big, obviously everybody's gonna talk and say, oh, this is not how it works, and they're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
if they go one to one, it's easier to bring the one person than to try to bring everybody who's like someone's gonna say something.
Right.
So yeah, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, no wonder. I was thinking in my head, like, just tell the news, tell the
Yeah.
news what we know, so that way everybody can come and we can go back to heaven faster. Like, that's the
Yeah.
fastest way to get to heaven, right?
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
preaching to everybody. So,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So,
and and just like the World Mission Society, they never answer the call. They will not do that because they don't have the answers. So, Daisy, I just want to thank you for sharing your story today because I think that this has a lot of good information. I hope that the members that watch this that they benefit from this because you shared a lot of very, very good points. And I think that it also shows like in the end, when members come out of that place, you can still you don't have to worry, have that fear of, something bad is going to happen to me, or worry about, constantly thinking the world is going to end. you know Look at all the ex-members that are out there. Everybody that I've talked to, everybody in the ex-member community that's left, not one person has said my life has gotten worse since leaving the World Mission Society.
oh yeah, I even had sister came and she's like, she talked to me and she's like, oh, sister, you're still the same. And I was like, yeah, like you don't change after you get up from church. You're still the same
Yeah,
person in my
you're this.
head. But I was like, yeah, they do
Yeah,
tell you like you're different when you leave. You're not the same, person. You're not like the nice person. And like when she saw and the way I was doing and everything, she's
yeah,
like, oh wow, you're still the same. And I was like, yeah, I'm still the same. And I was like, yeah, that's how they
yeah,
teach you that,
yeah, yeah,
people change. I'm like, no, you're still the same person.
yeah.
I was like, it's like I'm not gonna change. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
The only thing that changes is their doctrine. That's the only thing that
Right.
changes,
My mother's teaching, it's not change. I was so angry. I'm like, I learned all the mother's teaching, and then you change the words here
Yeah.
and there, and I was like, hell no, like now to be restudying, so easy. Like, you have kids, you have your life, your work. Like,
Yeah,
now that we study and learn all these things, I was like,
yeah,
nah,
yeah.
you're killing
What
me here. And
why would you need to correct God's teachings?
the
Did
part
she not
is, yeah,
did she not get them right the first time? I mean, I never once saw the Ten Commandments. God said,
oh,
"Oh, I need to change in the book of Luke. I need to readjust the Ten Commandments." No, the Ten Commandments stay the same. Why? Because God doesn't change, right? But according to the World Mission Society, I guess everything
it's
can
your faith.
yeah, everything can change. Your faith
According to
changes
your
when you
faith.
leave changes, everything changes. It's crazy. But anyway, Daisy, thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know your story is going to help so many people. And to
Thanks.
everybody that's out there watching this, if you've been, sticking with us from last
I
year,
also want to say one more thing.
yeah, go
Before,
ahead, Daisy.
another advice is that if you want, after you get out, you can always do your reading.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, you can't see this. Can you see this? Wait, like you can't see this book. Oh my gosh. Wow. Wait, where's the books? Mm,
what book is that?
it's hard to see, but it's the it's how I escaped the cult and the church
Okay.
are the cult, or oh
Yeah.
my God, this is what happens. I'm promoting our shirts.
There you go. Yeah, lost in the sauce. Hey, by the way, I got some new merch that I'm working on.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay, good, good, good,
yeah,
good.
that I think because yeah, we've been just rocking the same shirts for a
Oh
whole year
yeah,
now.
I was like, should I wear it? I was like, oh, but I already wore it a few times for other ones. I'm wearing like, oh, Daisy, you're poor. You don't have a shirt. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna wear a different shirt. It's probably different. I'll
Yeah,
wear it
no,
again
like
later.
it's funny because like I started doing it because members were asking, and then like recently people, even in the chats, like they're like, you should come up with different stuff. And I just been so busy, but like the other day I finally started like playing around with some stuff. And so pretty soon there's gonna be some new merchandise. So yeah, keep an eye out for everybody that's watching what's going on, watching the progress. But anyway, thank you again, Daisy, for supporting and for watching the channel, for being a big part in the ex-member community, and especially today for telling your story. And
Thank
once
you.
again, for everybody that's watching, please go ahead and subscribe, like, comment. Let's get this content out to more ex-members, current members, leaders, anyone that has to do with the World Mission Society. Let's get this information out to them so that eventually they can also be on the right side and come out. And until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Defusing the WMSCOG.
Are the way, I'm only asking for guidance, so I am not led astray. Had some people in the church say they love me, then left me broken. Hypocrisy at its highest, by the fruit you will know them. I ain't saying that I'm perfect, I've had some people I've hurt and some bridges that I left burning. It took me some time to grow up, but who I am today can't be compared to the past me. There's life inside his word, as you pay for us.